I am delighted to be here in such a moment about freedom. I have the distinct pleasure today, as we celebrate Juneteenth, to be in such a rich, holy, and historical space that means so much to American, to ours, and to my personal history. Welcome to Galveston. The Reedy Chapel African Methodist Episcopal Church of Galveston, Texas, is a history we all need to know. In 1848, it was established as the first Texas African Methodist Episcopal Church. The church was built for slaves of the Methodist Episcopal Church. 18 years later, in 1866, the church was deeded to former slaves. Now, within this history, established as the first makes it outstanding. But the church plays another integral role in our history. When Union soldiers arrived to Galveston to enforce emancipation, their journey took them from the Army headquarters to the courthouse to right here to this very church. It is here that many of our ancestors heard freedom for the first time. I want to thank the Reedy Chapel A.M.E. Church for living a legacy of freedom and allowing us to be here in this very sacred place today. A special thank you to Pastor Vincent Hightower for allowing the Boys and Girls Club to be a part of this and an over 172-year history. So I stand here in this space that stands on rich soil of freedom and hope. I'm humbled to introduce you to our freedom of the future. Robert Ellis III calls the city of Galveston his home. He is a recent graduate from Ball High School here in Galveston, Texas. He has maintained a high educational standard throughout his high school years, which led him to a 4.2 GPA. Currently, Robert has graduated with also a 2-year degree in his associates. He does all this while being a part of the Scientific Research and Design program at the University of Texas Medical Branch. This is a program that is set aside for high-achieving students who wish to excel in natural sciences. He will use all of these academic skills and accolades as his slingshot to Xavier University to pursue his passion of neuroscience and political science. Robert is not only an academic, but also a successful athlete as a varsity level football, track and field, and weightlifter. Now, I have to say I am a bit biased about Robert because he is an amazing young man that you're going to get to hear from today, whose future is extremely bright. And so I want to say again, thank you on behalf of Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston. I present to you Robert Ellis III, our club kid, and also our 2021 Youth of the Year. Robert?
Thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to give thanks to these very grounds. It's breathtaking once you understand just how fundamental Reedy Chapel has been throughout history. This is the very spot General Order No. 3 was read, announcing the end of slavery in Texas. But see, one thing I love about Reedy is that it didn't stop pursuing its purpose after the slaves were freed. It served as a school that educated both men and women. See, Reedy knew that being free was only part of the journey. We must also educate ourselves in order to obtain a better future. So wherever you are, I'd like you to simply say, thank you, Reedy Chapel, the mother church of Texas. Now I want you to take some time and imagine. Imagine the job you work for could no longer pay you, yet you still had to work. And going out into the world to seek a better job will cost you nothing less than your life. Imagine the school you go to could no longer teach you, and not because you were failing or got expelled or simply because you were born with a little bit more melanin than them. Imagine you cannot, I repeat, cannot walk down the street with the hoodie on because it simply gives off the wrong idea. An idea that ultimately leads to a young black man laying breathless on the street. You must understand, this is a reality that we live in day after day after day. But only through blood, sweat, and tears in years of pushing forward have we overcome these barriers. And while we have come so far, we all know there is much more ground to cover. I look at Juneteenth not only as a celebration, but as a reminder that no matter how stressful the situation may be, how much you want to quit and give in, that there are people who have died trying to be in the very spot you are in today, to even have half of the opportunities you have. Too many whips have been cracked on our backs for me to quit. Too many guns fired in our face, followed by the words, "Stop resisting," for me to back down just yet. So, we owe it to not only ourselves, but our ancestors to take full advantage of every opportunity presented to us. By the grace of God, I've been blessed enough to receive a full-ride scholarship to one of the top HBCUs in the world, Xavier University of Louisiana. A common question I get asked is, "Robert, you had the GPA and the grades and the test scores. Why didn't you go to Harvard or Yale or one of those schools?" And to me, personally, the answer was simple. It's not built for me. See, throughout high school, I've had to deal with being the only black boy in most of my classes. And at first, it felt good to finally represent my race in advanced classes. But as time went on and classes got more difficult, not having a support group in class makes situations harder to go through. And feeling alone and out of place in a world full of brilliant black minds should not be normal. If Juneteenth has taught me anything, it's that we shall overcome. Emphasis on the we. It doesn't say I shall, doesn't say you shall, it says we shall overcome. And we plan to do just that. The other day, I came across a reading that spoke to me. It said, "Blessed are those who plant trees whose shade they will never sit." And I believe that is what Juneteenth is all about. Leaving your mark even when you know it won't benefit you directly. The newly freed slaves knew they had a tremendous amount of work to get done and knew that they would not reap all of the benefits from the foundation they were laying. But it was a step in the right direction. And that has to be our mindset going through life. How can I make it better? Not only for me, but for those after me. So now, when you think of Juneteenth, I don't want you to simply think of when the slaves were free. I want you to think of being able to go to work and earn a wage. Think of your kids being able to go to school and learn. And more importantly, think about what you can do to better your community. Because without Juneteenth, none of this would be possible. Before I go, I want to leave you with a poem I wrote. And I hope these words are able to resonate within you. I carry my melanin, the most powerful weapon I own. It used to make me a lesser man, but I beg to differ. I carry my ancestors. Scratch that, they carry me. I can either use that as an excuse or a tool to achieve greatness. We might not be where we want to be today, but come tomorrow. Thank you.